everybody, it's Ben again, Culinary Director at Broil King, and we're doing another one of our Do More videos to teach you to do more with your Broil King grill. So this week, we're talking about cooking grids, cooking grates, whichever one you want to actually use to describe them. That cooking surface that you use to prepare all of those awesome things on your grill. We're going to talk about how they hold heat, how they deliver heat, what they can really do. We're not going to talk about how to clean them. That's another video. We're going to get onto that later in the series. We're not going to talk about how to season them. That's another hugely important section that we'll get into. Today we're just going to talk about cooking grates and how they work. So let's start off on what they do. I'll grab this cast stainless steel grate to start. So this is a cast stainless steel cooking grate out of one of our Imperial grills. It's made out of stainless steel. It's cast into the same shape as you'd see in our iconic cast iron cooking grids. Now, with your cooking grids, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to grill. Duh. It's the easy answer. You're going to grill on top of it. You're going to get a sear mark from this because these cooking grids retain heat. So let's start there. Cooking grids hold energy. Radiant heat from your burners rises up, and that energy is captured and stored in this material. The heavier this material is, the more energy it can store. So cooking grids are kind of like, think of them like a battery. They're storing up this heat energy, and they're waiting to deliver it through conductive cooking. They want to conduct that heat directly to what you put on top of those cooking grids. So when you put something on this, that heat that's stored in it, that energy that's stored in it, is transferred to your food. That's why you see a sear mark. So when you have that steak, where you get that iconic Broil King sear mark that we advertise on everything on the grill, that sear mark comes from the energy that's stored in your cooking grid. The heavier it is, the more energy it can store, which means it can deliver more sear for longer. Put your steak down on that cooking grid, and when you flip it over in that same spot, there's still enough energy stored in the material to keep that sear mark going. Thinner cooking grates, or thin wire grates, they don't store that much energy. They rely entirely on radiant heat. So if there isn't a lot of radiant heat, they put a weak sear mark on because the energy gets sucked out, and when you flip it, there's nothing left, so it basically ends up being gray meat on the opposite side. If you want continuous sear marks, you need something that's nice and heavy. So any of these cooking grids right here, let's just toss it on the scale. We're coming in at, reset to 0, and we're coming in at just over 5 pounds on any of them. We have 5.2 pounds on this cast stainless cooking grid. Will be about exactly the same thing on the cast iron cooking grid, 5.4 pounds. And I'm guessing the stainless will be right there as well. So you've got over 5 pounds of material to capture that heat, to hold it in, and to deliver that continuous sear. So that's essentially what they're doing. You put your food on the grill, and you get that awesome sear mark that we see from grilling from the energy that's stored in the cooking grates themselves. Now, feature-wise, any of our cast iron cooking grids or our cast stainless cooking grids, you can flip them over. They've got two different sides. So we've got that peak side on the top that you'll see for that perfect steak sear, that thing that we promote on every piece of advertising that we have on the grill, because that iconic sear mark is something that people associate with Broil King. We can store a lot of energy and we can deliver consistent sear. But when you flip these things over, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of grooves on the opposite side. And when you see these grooves, you've got twice as many contact points for your food because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 peaks here, but twice as many peaks on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 peaks. It's more of a full surface sear on this side. When you put your food down here, it's going to cook much more like it's cooking on a griddle. Anything that falls between is going to vaporize, so you still get the great grilled flavor. But when you cook on here, it's more of a full surface sear. So when I'm encouraging people to think about flipping their cooking grids over, to use both sides. When you get to the V side of your grids, it's those, a lot of our people say the more delicate items that you're going to cook. But I like to use that as this is the full surface sear side. If you're doing chicken wings, something that you want that perfect golden skin on, put them on this side. As the chicken fat renders and the juices come out, that chirps away in the grooves between the peaks, and that basically helps roast the meats as they're cooking. Fresh made burgers, if they're not completely cold, they're a little bit soft. If you were to put them onto this side of the cooking grid, that burger is going to sag between each one of these peaks. And when you go in there with your spatula, slide underneath that burger, you're going to shave the bottom of it off. It's not really an experience that you want to have. So if you flip it over, twice as many contact points, the burger doesn't get a chance to sag, and when you slide underneath it, you can flip the entire burger without cutting a portion of it off. So, a lot of use here. Two sides, a lot of extra things that you can do with your grill. Because not everything needs to have that iconic sear mark. You want to see it on steaks. You love to see it on grilled veg. But a lot of other things, you really want to get that full surface golden brown sear on. So consider using both sides of your cooking grates if you've got a cast iron or cast stainless grids. Now that's a little bit on the feature. Let's go through some of the material stuff. So Jeremy, if we can look down here on the table, I've got 3 different materials in front of me for the cooking grates. That'll be your main cooking grates in any Broil King grill. And I'm gonna go back and forth between the word grids and grates because they're used pretty interchangeably. I'm gonna start with cast iron. So throughout most of the Broil King lineup, you'll find cast iron cooking grates. Now you'll notice that they've got kind of a glossy finish on them. That's a matte porcelain coating. It goes onto the outside. Helps with transport as they're shipped, but it also helps you get started with seasoning once you get it onto your grill. Now, your cast iron cooking grates are going to be like grandma's cast iron pan. You need to season them consistently to make them perform better. If you leave them salty, sugary, and wet, they're going to rust. You got to take care of it. Seasoning is super important with cast iron. If you're going to have this style of cooking grids, you've got to get into that habit. So you burn them off when you're done using them, brush them down, and then season them with some oil. And then when you come back before you cook on it again, same type of thing. Burn it off, brush it down, re-season it. It builds up a nice patina over time, which is a polymerized layer of oil on top of the cooking grids, and that helps protect them from rot. If you're smoking a lot, so if you have one of our Broil King pellet grills and it's got a set of these cast iron grids in it, don't worry, everything that you're already cooking, brisket, pork shoulder, it's delivering enough natural fat onto those cooking grids to keep them seasoned and keep them protected for years to come. But if you're grilling on a gas grill with this, all that intense heat and that sugary barbecue sauce and all of that salt, if those cooking grids go dry and they're not oily, there's a pretty good chance that they can rust. So take care of them if you've got cast iron. It's available throughout most of our lineup, and it has it's incredible performance, but you've got to take care of it. It takes a little bit of work. For a lot of people who don't enjoy cast iron, they switch over to rod stainless steel. So with rod stainless steel cooking grids, cooking grates, you're going to get a lot of the same performance aspects that you'd see in our cast iron cooking grids or cast stainless cooking grids. The biggest thing that you're going to get is sear, and you're going to get that sear because we just use a larger diameter of wire. So they're made out of stainless wire. In this case, it's 9mm stainless. You saw that they weigh the same, roughly the same, as their cast equivalents. When they weigh that much, they can retain that energy and deliver that perfect sear mark. We want to be able to deliver that perfect steak story on no matter what Broil King grill you're cooking on. So we just use heavier gauge wire. We want you to get great sear marks, great heat retention out of these cooking grates, and then that awesome vaporization that happens below. That's your perfect grilling experience. People generally love rod stainless cooking grids because they're easy to clean. There's not a lot of maintenance involved in it. Yes, you should season it. Absolutely, you should clean them. That's cooking grates regardless of what they're made of. Clean always performs better. But they just don't need the maintenance that their cast equivalent needs. You do not need to stay on top of a seasoning regimen. At very worst, you might get a little bit of light surface rusting if you've neglected them for weeks or months at a time. There's not a lot of maintenance to rod stainless cooking grids. When we used to do a lot of store cookouts, one of the things that I would commonly say is you could take these out and scrape them off in your driveway and they'd be perfectly clean. It's probably going to make your driveway dirty, but you get the idea behind it. There's not a lot of maintenance to rod stainless cooking grids. Now, a couple years ago, to the Broil King lineup for the Imperial Series, we introduced cast stainless steel. And this is probably the style that I get the most amount of questions about. I've heard people say that they think it's cast iron that's coated in stainless steel. Others think that it's basically just cast iron that has like a stainless coloration to it. That's not the case. We've taken stainless steel like you'd see in the rod stainless, we've melted it and then cast it into the shape that you see for the cast iron cooking grids. It's got some more stabilizing pieces into it because creating cast stainless steel is considerably more difficult than making cast iron, but it cooks the same way. So you still have that double-sided experience. You have your peaks and then the grooves and the ridges on the opposite side. It's going to work just like your cast iron cooking grids, but it's going to be easy to clean like your rod stainless cooking grids. Still have to season it, of course. That's what's going to give you the best performance, and you still have to clean them. But consider this the best of both worlds. Now, they do come in at a premium. There's a reason why these cooking grates are in our top-of-the-line grills. There's a reason why it's in the Imperial, because they are considerably more expensive than the alternatives. But they're fun to work with. They're a great cooking grate. Pun intended, or not intended. So when you're out there looking at cooking grates, that's a little bit on the materials themselves. Jeremy, my cameraman right now, is laughing at me. But that's kind of how it breaks down for material. It's not that funny. It's like a halfway pun. One of the last things you want to consider when you're looking at cooking grates is really what they're going to do performance-wise. So I've got a spatula here to illustrate a couple things. I've got 3 different cooking grates on the table, but you'll notice I've got a warming rack in the front here too. So when you reach in to pick up that burger and you want to flip it on any of your cooking grates, and really no matter who makes that grill, you would slide in like this underneath the burger to pick it up. If you look at a Broil King warming rack, our warming rack faces exactly the same way as our cooking grates. So whether you're on the main cooking surface, reaching in to scoop up that burger, or the warming rack, faces the same way. Now, you'll notice this on a lot of other grills. If you turn the warming rack the other way, now your spatula is not sliding in underneath the burger, the sausage, no matter what you're picking up, as easily. You want to have this inline shape because it's basically going to make it that much easier to get under what you're cooking and pick it up. Got to have that lip at the back to stop it in the grill, but essentially on a warming rack, this should face the same way as this. Just a handy feature to have. On most warming racks, you'll see that they are porcelain coated steel. They don't go through the same abuse as your main cooking surface would. All right, what have I missed here? So we talked about the mass, how much they weigh, how the retained heat deliver that perfect sear. We talked about how our cast stainless and our cast iron cooking grids are double-sided, giving you that much more cooking versatility to do delicate items, or really your burgers and your chicken wings and those items that you want that full surface sear, or sear your iconic perfect steak. We've talked about materials, why they're made different ways. One thing that I didn't mention is the gaps between the cooking grades. When you look at a grill, look at how big that gap is. What's going to fall between there? Is that gap so wide that an entire mushroom will disappear into there? Is that gap so wide that your whole steak falls through it? You want cooking grids that are nice and tight together. We saw the weight. We know that they're over 5 pounds a piece on these Regal series or Imperial series cooking grids here. We know that they weigh a lot, and part of that weight is because they're so tight together. There's not a lot of space there. There's not a lot of things that can fall into this narrow gap. And I guess the last thing to mention on this would be, oh no, I've got 2 things. There's more. I could keep going on this, and I don't want to, because really, cleaning, I don't want to get into that because that's another video. And seasoning, something completely different. Also the perfect steak. It was requested last week. We got to do a video on cooking the perfect steak on all of these materials and how it's going to work. But one of the things I should mention is these 3 cooking grades are exactly the same size. This one here comes out of our Regal Pellet 500 smoker. The Regal Pellet 500 400 use cast iron cooking grids. This one here is out of one of our Regal gas grills. And then this here is out of the Imperial. Now, since you'll notice they're all exactly the same size, they're completely universal. If you've got one of our pellet grills, yes, you can buy cast stainless grids or rod stainless grids for it. If you've got a Regal that comes with the rod stainless grids, you can upgrade to the cast stainless. Or if you want to get some of those cast iron cooking grids in there as a searing grid for your steaks, you can buy them as an aftermarket thing. So we try to make as many of our parts universal within series as possible. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, because I don't want to miss this, is your grid lifter. With many Broil King grills, this comes right in the box. So if you take a look at it up close, come on in here, Jeremy. We've got 2 different notch outs on this. So the first one you'll see down at the bottom, square, and then up above it, we've got a rounded knockout. So the rounded knockout is for your rod stainless cooking grids. And essentially what you do is, on your grill, you'd keyhole it down in here, twist it, and then, because it basically just pinches onto the cooking grid, you can pick up your grids. The farther you go into the grid towards the center, the lighter it feels, but there is a tipping point, so you don't want to go past center on that. But basically, this is how you get your cooking grids out of your grill without getting your hands dirty. So, handy tool to use, works with a lot of the grill accessories as well. That square notch out, that works on your cast cooking grids. So same thing, keyhole it down in, turn, grab, lift. It's that simple. Nice essential tool to have. I often use this thing as a grill scraper too, just to bust off any big chunks. I'd watch that on the enamel on the cast iron cooking grids. You want to use a brush there, you want to take care of this, then they're going to last you for years to come. But anyway, that's the introduction to cooking grates on your Broil King grill. There's a lot more content that we have coming on that. Like I said, we're going to teach you how to grill the perfect steak on any of these materials. We're going to teach you how to clean them properly, and we're also going to teach you how to season your grates. So, my name is Ben Street. I'm the culinary director here at Broil King. This is our Searing Saturdays Do More with Your Grill series, and thanks for watching.